Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by TheLines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, as always, and we are looking at NBA best bets here for Wednesday. Take a quick little break from that NBA Cup, and we'll be back with that on Thursday. But we do have a decent amount of games here on Wednesday, a bunch of back-to-backs as well, so definitely make sure to check those injury reports, as always, in the NBA. Want to make sure to subscribe to that page. We got best bets in this episode, also bringing you play a props in a separate one, and we're bringing both of those to you each and every weekday now moving forward, so make sure to subscribe and continue to follow along. Nate, pretty good night last night. Finished above 500 as a squadron, so continue to push on those units. Let's jump into your first best bet here for Wednesday night.
Yeah, NBA Cup returning Friday. You said Thursday.
Friday, excuse me.
Just to be clear there. But yeah, I think we can fade some teams that just played in the NBA Cup, including the Knicks. I'll take Bulls +8 here with the rest advantage. Look, this is the first back-to-back of the season for your new look Knicks. OG Anunoby, 41 minutes last night, Cat 38, etc. It's a Thibodeau squad, so of course they all played a pretty healthy amount of minutes. And I mean, might look a little inflated, this line, because they just beat up on the doo-doo Sixers and Joel Embiid nowhere near back. My apologies for throwing him out on player props. He looks like he is a literal statue with zero fitness. But yeah, moving on. Look, the Knicks we're only. It's good that they're coming off a win here because they're 66% ATS after a loss versus 45% after a win since 23. Lots of teams in that situation, and lots of teams also struggle on the back-to-back. They're 30% ATS and 33% when they just have a rest disadvantage. But also, I mean, the Bulls are maybe a little undervalued because like they lost 3 in a row without Zach LaVine, including like an embarrassing loss to Utah. Any loss to Utah is embarrassing, but they're 6-2 against this number with him. That includes the game he left against the Nets. And one of those failures to cover was OKC, and the other was the opener. So like they've been pretty competitive. Surprisingly, their defense has been better when Zach LaVine is out there, at least by rating. Maybe that's a small sample size, but the reason I'm into this bet is because he's one of those MSG pilgrims, right? One of those guys you can mark as like when they go to the Garden, they bring it. They love those lights. He hasn't been there since 22, but in his last 6 trips there, 29 points per game, shooting 40% from 3. Also, Kobe White. In the last 2 with no Zach LaVine last year, 26 and 6, 50% from 3. Josh Giddey has a triple-double in all 3 trips to Madison Square Garden, for what it's worth. And Vucevic has played pretty well there, too. In his matchups with Cat, they've both gotten theirs because neither is a very great defender, I suppose. And, guarding the statue that is Joel Embiid at this moment, a little different than Vuce, who's playing good ball on offense. The Bulls can run and gun. They can tire you out, especially if you're on a back-to-back. Like they're attempting the third most threes in the league, and they hit 3 more per game when they have LaVine. So I don't trust the Knicks on tired legs to cover this big number.
That's fair. And then you've got whatever's going on with Jalen Brunson as well. He had to leave yesterday, came back. I believe it was the ankle. Yeah, that's right. He stepped on the ankle and rolled it. So, I mean, I don't know. He's at 26.5 points, and that feels kind of high for a guy like, if you've rolled your ankle before and never played hoops and then tried to play the next day, you can keep going right after it happens. You've got adrenaline coursing through you. At that point, you can still keep going. So he came back. He was all right. The next day is when it sucks. So I don't know if he's going to be at 100p. Might even consider some Miles McBride stuff if he needs to get in there for a few more minutes as a scoring guard, still at 10.5 points, even maybe like a couple assists. So I think all of that also, though, leads you to go like, yeah, Chicago ain't as bad as they were maybe advertised earlier in the season. I've been a Josh Giddey supporter for a while. I know he wasn't able to shoot for a long time, and that upset things in OKC. But this was, I thought, a pretty good bounce back spot in terms of coming to Chicago for him. So I think this is going to be a team that's pesky all season, and I like them with these big spreads against teams that are going to be overvalued, like the Knicks on a back-to-back. So let me go to LA. Let's go to the Lakers and Grizzlies. And I called this last time out. It was at 230.5 was the total last time. It's at 231.5 now. I know Ja Morant isn't in, but I don't care. I still think that this Grizzlies team is going to be able to put up points on an awful Lakers defense. So, I mean, pace is going to be a big reason for it. The Lakers have dropped in pace over their last 5 games or so after coming out and being top 10. They're just outside the top 10 now, 15th. But in the last 3 games, played some slow teams, still 5th in fast break points. And that's what Memphis is doing. They are the definition of fast break, transition, helter-skelter basketball right now. 3rd in pace, 2nd in fast break points, forcing a good amount of turnovers as well, which I think is something we'll get off of the Lakers, which is nice, points off of turnovers. And the Lakers not limiting fast break points. Memphis not really doing it that well either. They're 15th in the league, so middle of the pack, but the Lakers giving up the 5th most fast break points. And the fast breaking has not really stopped just because Ja's been out for the last 3 games. You look at Memphis in the last 3, they played some poo-poo competition, that's for sure, but they have been putting up points on that poo-poo competition as well, and averaging more than 120 since Ja went down, including the buck 40 obviously against the Wizards, but like, I don't know how much better are the Lakers at defense than the Wizards. I don't think they're that much better. D'Lo is going to be playing in this one after he was questionable originally, so we should be getting that lack of defense up top for him, which is great. And then what they, like I say, the defense in general for them is terrible. The pace has been fast for them. Their games are averaging 232. They're 5-5 to the over. Memphis 7-4 to the over this season, covering by about 5 points per game against that total. Still think they're being sort of classified as like a choppy defensive grind city kind of thing, and I just don't see that for this team anymore, especially without Desmond Bane. We're talking about Laravia, Conchar, like shooters and guys that are not necessarily plus defenders, although Conchar's been pretty good. Just everywhere else, just not really plus defenders going on for this squad. So, and look, this is just a matchup that goes over, Nate. Like, they play at 102 pace over their last 5 games in the regular season. We know Ja only played in one of those games last season, and they still went comfortably over, whether the Grizzlies were blowing out the Lakers 130 to 107 or vice versa. There weren't very many close games, but there were a lot of over games. I think that's going to be the case once more.
Yeah, Marcus Smart might be back in there, but probably only 20, 25 minutes, I would think. Kind of changes the identity a little bit for Memphis. And that last game, yeah, AD missed, which is why Memphis just kind of ran up and down the floor. But like, the Lakers defense is bad with AD in there because he can't help at the same time. That's part of the reason I absolutely love Scottie Pippen Jr. props as at the helm of this offense, because you can just, they're turnstiles on the perimeter, and then you can just get in there and pass around AD. Like, he should be getting his assists, his rebounds as the lead guard here. So that's the way I love attacking this game. But yeah, I could definitely see an over the way the Lakers play right now. Let me take under Wizards team total 107.5 for the projected worst team in the Eastern Conference, maybe in the league. They have not been playing fast lately, which has led to 96.5 points per game on this 3-game road trip, shooting 30% from 3. The pace was even down further when Kyle Kuzma got back in there. It's just kind of an awkward situation, right? Where you have Kuz and Jordan Poole at the midpoint of their careers, just trying to get theirs, get their numbers, get the contract. And then you have surrounded by like rookies, like guys who are kind of promising and that they've seen some stuff with from Washington, and that they probably want to get in there. And it just has resulted in very clunky offense, nothing going on the perimeter, depending on fast break points, maybe getting to the rim. And now you have to go up against Wemby. So like, how is that going to work out? Obviously the Spurs are elite defending the paint. In their last 3, they're number 6 defensive efficiency overall. Their transition defense has gone up to number 8, which was a struggle early on. They play very slow now that they have Chris Paul. This is not the Spurs of the last couple of years, right, where you expect a 242 total here. Like, it's 224. It's too high on the Wizards' end. I don't necessarily trust the Spurs offense either, the way Wemby's playing on that end, but his defense has been elite. It allows everybody to fly around on 3-point shooters. They're allowing just 28% from 3 in that last 3 and playing at just a 95 pace at home. So I think I feel pretty confident in the Wizards going under this number, maybe even falling below 100 for a 3rd straight game, right?
Yeah. I mean, totally. I was looking at maybe even taking some props for the Wizards for a couple of guys. I love this young core. But this Spurs team is not a team that's going to like let this team surprise it by any means. The Wizards, right? They're not going to come in unexpecting. They're going to come in pretty ready to go. Former Wizard Chris Paul was the Wizard for like 7 minutes. Is going to be playing in this one. But Stephon Castle, the emergence of the kid, UConn Huskies. I'm with it. Yeah, the clamps are out for this team right now. Defense so much better. The reason I didn't take any of those props for any of these guys for the Wizards is I was like, this perimeter defense is locked down right now for the Spurs, which it can be it can take those gambles on the outside because it has 7'10" Victor Wembanyama waiting for anybody who wants to come in the paint. So it makes perfect sense. I don't know if we'll see more Joe Val or not. I don't know what this Wizards team is going to throw at us, but it's not going to be as good as what the Spurs defense is bringing. So I'm with that. Let me go to an Indy Orlando game that is making me scratch my head a little bit. And I think we're getting some pretty good value on Indy right now after Orlando played yesterday, wiped the floor with the Hornets because there was nobody to stop Franz Wagner from going to the hoop. I took that late and gave it out later in the afternoon for Franz when I saw him at 23.5. But I was like, wait, this dude's driving to the rim with impunity since Paolo went out, like the fifth most drives in the league, not passing off of it. That's kind of what I'm looking for here. A lot of guys that are going to be able to get to the rim against Orlando. Goga, great, but like I think plus 1.5 for Indy, and there's some middle opportunities here for sure if you want to do that with some disparity on the books right now. Minus 1.5 for some on some books, plus 1.5 on others. You can get both these teams at like plus 1.5, right? So there's some middling opportunities here, but I just think with the Magic lineup is razor thin and coming off a back-to-back, like those guys still had to play up until the fourth quarter. Obviously they got a little bit more rest, but Suggs and Franz are doing the bulk of the work on offense. And I just don't know how many games in a row they can do that. We saw Suggs. I mean, he left for a minute and came back after his torrid start, but he had 13 in the first quarter and ended with 17. Granted, Franz did his thing, but Jalen Suggs is not like a primary scorer that if he is your second best offensive player, you're in trouble with your offense. And Franz didn't need to do anything except for get a screen and walk down the middle of the paint to get his points yesterday and make that game really easy. That ain't going to be there anymore. I mean, the Pacers aren't world beaters on defense, but I think they're going to be scoring more points than Orlando can score, and that's all it's going to take at this point for Indy is when they play fast, they win. When they play slow, they lose. And I know that they know that, and it's just a matter of if they can impose their will. And I do think that they will be able to. Now, Nembhard is out. We're still going to see plenty of TJ McConnell coming off the bench, and we're still going to see Halliburton probably up above 32, 33 minutes in this one. Benny Matz has been an absolute monster in the last 5 games or so. People need to be paying attention to that. He is who we thought he was because we were expecting this last year from Benny Matz. Slow start to the season, then he gets hurt. Now he's back. It's a vaunted third season kind of thing for him. And so with that type of score, I don't think that's being taken into consideration right now. He's eating into Hallie's usage a lot on offense. So I would continue to eye him. But they're 5th in O rating in the last 5 games, coinciding with Benny Matz being, I don't know, a top 10 scorer in the league right now, at least efficiency-wise in that time frame. So I like the way that they're moving the ball when they win. Like I said, 100 pace when they win. In their losses, 96 pace. Not going to cut it. So they know they got to keep it up. And Orlando's first in D rating in the last 5, I just think we're getting value because they're overvalued. They played Charlotte. They played Washington. They played the Pelicans, who I'm putting right up there with the Wizards right now as one of the worst teams in the league, obviously without most of the players on their teams. But that's where we're at. So I don't believe in anything that Orlando has really done. I don't think that Franz is going to be able to just I know he's not going to be able to just walk down the middle of the lane. And I know that Jalen Suggs is not going to get his shot off nearly as easily against one of the best 3-point defenses in the league. So I don't know where they turn for offense at that point. But I love the Pacers to be able to win this game.
Yeah, this reminds me of like an NFL line flipping from 1.5 from one side to the other. And then you never want to take the new favorite in that situation but in the NBA, it's kind of the opposite. It's kind of just the market dictating like, no, this is wrong. Like Orlando has just beat up on bad teams. Like you said, they still are very, very thin, have very few options on offense without Paolo. And Indy, I'll trust them as long as they're up for the game. Like, I don't know what the hell happened with the Pacers on Friday night in Charlotte to lose by 20, but beat Dallas in Dallas, then come home, beat the Knicks. Like if they really respect the opponent, they should come out and play really well and Halliburton lead that charge. So I think that the Magic will have their haunches up. This is the 3rd meeting already, and I think they can get the win.
Yeah, they need to pull that one out. So that's all the time we have for you in Best Bets, though. Continue to follow along, subscribe to that page. Make sure you check out the Play of Props episode. Until we see you next, happy betting.